to get a reading from a psychic or an intuitive, what are you actually tapping into? Have you ever wondered, where does that information come from? What is it based on? How is it that a reading can turn out exactly the way you were told 20 years ago, yet other parts of it never happen? Does that mean that the intuitive wasn't good? I'm going to answer all of those questions because it's actually a really complicated question. When we go into a reading, I know that the person coming to me either wants to speak to someone who's crossed, so that's pretty cut and dried, right? I'm just going to interpret for the dead, or they want to know something about their life, what's going on in their life, a medical diagnosis, a relationship situation, a job, travel, what's coming up in the future. Most of the time, they're aware of what it is they want to know. They just want to go to somebody who has no way of knowing anything about it to get confirmation of things that they probably already know. There's something validating about that because oftentimes the person getting the reading hasn't talked to anybody else about what it is. So the way that I see our lives moving forward is we've made a decision before we come. Again, I am not an expert. This is just my belief system based on my subjective experiences as an intuitive over the course of my life. We're given a chance before we're born to decide what we want our trip here to look like. It's for a very specific reason. According to my guide, people don't just come here. We're like the boss level of experience. So people that really want to grow are the ones that come here. Because we decide what we're going to do ahead of time, we also involve certain other people. You're planning a group trip. That's why you'll run into people and it's like, oh my God, I feel like I've known them forever. Chances are those people might be part of the players in our life, and we play these different parts in each other's lives so that we can meet those learning goals that we set up before we come. I don't know if you remember the books from like the 80s and the 70s that were called Choose Your Own Adventure books. At least it was one basic story, but as you were the reader reading through, you would get to page 3 and it would say, if you want to follow Susie down the dark path, turn to page 56. If you want to go the other direction into town, turn to page 54. Depending on the choices that you made in how you read that book, the story would be different each time. That's sort of the way I see our trip here. We have written the book before we came. We have all of the different potentials for the way the book is going to turn out because we wrote the book. Free will is what happens when we're turning the pages, deciding how we're going to get from one point of the story to the next. The story was already written. Those are going to be the absolute things that will come up for certain people in reading. For instance, for me, my absolutes were I'm supposed to be with my husband. I knew it the instant I saw him 30 years ago. I was like, I'm going to be married to you. I feel like my children were absolutes. I have things that I need to learn from them. My accident was an absolute. So no matter how I turned those pages, no matter how I had exercised my free will to get from one point to another, those things would have happened no matter what. I might not have been hit by a car crossing the street. Maybe it was a car accident, or maybe it was a fire. Regardless, I needed that to happen at a certain point to steer my direction to the path that I needed to be on, which is the one I'm on now. All right, so set all that aside. We have that background information now. When you sit down for a reading, I'm looking at all of those little pathways that are coming out. A few of those end in absolutes. Those are the ones that probably aren't going to change. But you can go to a reading, it can tell you what's going to happen in your relationship based on the information that you have right now based on your free will. That doesn't mean that the information in a reading is absolute. Oftentimes, readings can pick up some of those absolutes, but for the most part, we're reading where the person is right now based on their free will. That free will is also affected by other people's free will. So think of it in the perspective of a marriage or a relationship where you have your aspect of the relationship, but your partner also has free will in that relationship that could totally affect it. So while we might be able to pick up information about what's going on with your partner and their free will, that can also change based on how they choose to move forward in their story. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a bad intuitive. I mean, there are a lot of really bad intuitives, don't get me wrong. But there have been situations where even, for instance, there was one where I did not see issues in their relationship, and 3 days later, the relationship ended. I checked back in. It was like, is the relationship over? And I kept getting, no, the relationship isn't over. The relationship wasn't over. They got back together. So that all of it comes together to form what is the story of your life and your path. That's how people get readings. I know this seems really convoluted. I don't know how it got so convoluted.